Hey, this is Kimberly Durst, making a video today about gear. I think that's probably one of the most common questions that gets asked on the last annual pages from people that haven't done these kind of races before. Um, and so today that's what I'm gonna talk about. Again, my name's Kimberly Durst. You might know me from having run with me before during one of these. My sister also likes to make some pretty comical, very colorful posts about my running. Maybe you don't know who I am. It really doesn't matter. I finished a whole bunch of these races at this point. Between 2016 and 2023, I've finished 10 last annual races. Vol State 7 times, Heart of the South twice, and the one and only Third Circle of Hell. So, and most of my finishes have been at or under the 6-day mark. So, pretty reasonable level of success or speed with them. I do have 2 DNFs, but 10 finishes. So, I've got a lot of experience doing this kind of running. So, when people ask what kind of stuff that you bring with you, there's no really simple answer to that. The most generic answer you'll usually hear is use what works for you. Well, that's great. That's a great answer, and it's a very true answer that we all ultimately figure out, and I'm still figuring out to this day. But for a new person who's never done this kind of running before, it's not very useful. Somebody's asking this question because they don't know what to bring with them. They've never done this before. And they're wanting advice from people who are very experienced and who have done this kind of running and can share their insight or wisdom and what works and doesn't work for them. Now, there is no one size fits all, and there are absolutely things that work for me that don't work for other people, and things that work for other people, both faster and slower than me, that don't work for me. So there's some general consensus on certain things. Obviously you're going to probably, unless you're Ray Krolowitz, you're probably going to wear a pack. Or Ken Zemock for that matter. He doesn't wear a pack either. But you're probably going to use a hydration pack. And you're going to have to carry water, or Gatorade or some sort of drink. You'll need to have some kind of money to pay for the things that you're going to need to purchase on the road. But, and your phone so you can check in. But beyond those obvious, Captain Obvious answers, there are a lot of other things that that I find can be very, very useful and that are tried and tested at this point. So I'm gonna talk about those things, and maybe I can help somebody, or we can at least start a dialogue where we can also share other information. Information sharing has been very useful for me. In doing these runs over the years, I've learned a lot from other people, and hopefully I've helped some other people, myself in the past. So let's go ahead and get to it here. I'm going to switch my camera over so you can see my stuff, if I can. Maybe I can't. So, looks like I'm having some problems getting my camera to switch over the other way around. Anyway, so I'm going to just start with shoes. Now, shoes is probably one of the most contested items, because I don't think you can meet any 2 people who have the exact same opinion on shoes. But what I have found works for me, and it took years of trial and error to come to this, and I'm still not 100% sold on them, but they work for me, I use the Ultra Escalante. Now this is the, I think it's the 3, they might be at 3.5 by now, I'm not sure. But anyway, this shoe, I'm going to show you, it's got a really wide toe box. And that's useful for me because my feet, your feet swell and they expand in your shoes when you've been out there for a couple of days. You're spending a lot of time on your feet. I spend probably, I move an average of probably 55 to 58 miles a day on average. The first day you do a little more. I'll do probably about 80, 85 miles the first day usually. And then after that, I normally stick around 50 to 55. That's a lot of time on your feet. For me, it's about probably 16 hours a day, maybe a little less, that I'm upright and I'm moving. And so a shoe like that, where you've got that one's wearing down pretty good. I've put a lot of miles on it, but that wide toe box, it really allows your toes to have room to move around. And then the other thing that is really important with footwear for me is I use the Injinji toe socks. Now these ones are long. Those are good for me on the first day. I'm moving usually a little quicker, and you get a lot of road grit that kind of builds up. And when I'm walking, which is primarily what I do after day one, you don't kick quite as much, or at least I don't anyway. I don't kick quite as much dirt around, and I don't have to get quite as much of it into my socks and shoes. But on day one, I tend to move a little quicker, and so I've found that I end up getting a lot of road grit that gets down into my sock because I like to wear the no-show sock. And getting dirt down into your socks is really bad because it'll create funky friction issues that lead to blisters, and that's probably one of the biggest issues that people have in these races, and that I had until very recently. It wasn't until last summer that I read the Fixing Your Feet book, which people have been pushing at me for years, and I was a stubborn ass, and I refused to read it for a long time. And I should have, because once I read the things in that book, it changed my life and changed my races, and I quit getting blisters. So, but anyway, these socks, the long ones are really good for me on day one. They help prevent all that shit from getting down into my socks. But the toes are the big part of it for me. I like to have my toes separated. Otherwise, you get friction between your toes and blisters will develop there. For me, and again, I told you, I read the Fixing Your Feet book. And everybody has something, some people use trail toes. There are people that swear by the old school Vaseline. Some people claim they don't use anything at all. My boyfriend, Henry, he likes Run Goo. These are all protectants for your feet that help to either prevent moisture from getting through, which can lead to friction issues, or they're just an outright protectant. I use Desitin. This is a maximum strength Desitin. There are some people that just think Desitin's the devil. I used to be one of them. I am not anymore. I'm sold on this. It's part of my, I guess, repertoire at this point. My bag of tricks that works for my feet. And like I said, last year, after I read the Fixing Your Feet book, I went from my feet being completely obliterated at HOTS. It was one of my 2 DNFs that I've ever had at something of this distance, to having 0. 3 weeks later, and I DNF'd HOTS at 235 last year. 4 days and 235 miles. 3 weeks later, I ran Vol State in 5 days and 9 hours, and I had no blisters. And I used Desitin. The other thing that I used, and this is what I carry with me when I'm on the road. It's a little baggie, and you can see I've got some rock tape in there. And I'm going to show you what else is in here, and these are super valuable to me. This is what's called an Engo patch, and I don't know if you can tell in the video, but it's almost like a sticker. It's a shiny, heavy-duty sticker, and you put it into your shoe directly onto your insole of your shoe, any place that you are prone to friction and blisters. So for me, that's going to be near the top of the shoe by the toes, kind of underneath the toes. Gosh, I'm not sure what that part of the foot is actually called, but it's kind of like right below your toes on your foot. My feet slide around in my shoes there and move, and putting these on the insole of my shoe has been a game changer for me. Now, they guarantee these for up to 300 miles, even with getting your feet wet, rain. I used one of these at Vol State, and it made it through the whole 314 miles. I had rainstorms, multiple of them. Your feet are drenched in sweat because it's 100 degrees out there. No blisters. And this thing lasted the whole way. when I put it in my shoe. Didn't have to change it out. It didn't wear down. So they guarantee 300 miles. Mine lasted 314 with rain and sweat and everything else. Never came loose, and I never had any issues with it. Latch was a different story. I did have to change out one of them. Latch, the third circle of hell, was 370 miles. We actually had a flood warning the first day. It rained most of the first like 10 hours. And after about 200, I had to change one of them out. It was peeling off and it was wearing down, but after that I was good. And at Latch, I think I ended up with 2 very small minor blisters. Now I did have hot spots that I was worried would turn into more, but again, just I changed it out, and I made sure I kept applying my Desitin, and I carried extra socks to dry socks to change out. You want to keep your socks as dry as you can. So that is one of my luxury items. I don't carry many of them. I'm a light packer, but I do carry an extra pair of socks so that I can, if I've got a pair and they've gotten super sweaty or wet from rain, I pin them to the front of my pack so that they can dry out. And then I put on a fresh pair. So Engo Patch and Desitin are probably the 2 biggest things for me, along with an extra pair of socks that saved my feet last summer. The only other super important things for foot care that I preach to people as much as I can are Compeed. Now, if you have gotten to a point where you didn't catch something in time with, and you, despite using Engo patches or whatever it is you choose to use, Desitin, trail toes, whatever, you still end up developing a blister. These are a godsend. They are hydrocolloid blister patches. I'm trying to, container's, it's not open, unfortunately. I don't want to open it up necessarily, but I'm going to show you what they look like. So here's my favorite size of them. This is a big one here. And these will, you want to make sure your foot's super clean and dry before you put it on. So if you've got a blister and your feet have some gunk on them, whatever, Desitin or whatever, clean it off. Make sure your feet are very dry. And then you put this over top of, after you've opened up and drained out the blister and dried it out as best as you could. You want to pop one of these bad boys over it. Hold it in place for about 30 seconds. And it's going to adhere to your foot. And then what they do 2 things. They help with pain relief with the blister, and they suck the moisture out. So, blisters are filling up with fluid. They help pull that out and away from your skin so that your blister can dry out and heal better. And I've had a lot of success with them. They've worked very well for me. And they'll stay on your foot for a while. If you get a blister at, say, mile 120, if you pop one of those, it's probably going to last you for at least 2 or 3 days, one of these Compeed patches. So they're really useful, and they do a great job of protecting broken down areas and helping them heal. And then the only other thing that I personally use is I do use rock tape on my toes. Now, I have some pre-cut strips. These fit around areas that are problematic on my toes. And I will use some, I don't have any in here. I'll have to order more of them. But little bullets of tincture of benzoin. It helps to, it helps the rock tape to adhere to your foot so that when you get sweaty, they don't just, come loose and slide off your foot. So I use pre-cut strips. Now, one of the things that I carry with me is a little Swiss knife that has scissors on it. This is very small. It weighs next to nothing, and I'm going to show you. There's a little pair of scissors on it. And I believe it or not, I use these every race. I've had to use them to cut strips of tape. I've had to use them to cut other things. I actually had to use them at HOTS this past year to cut my shoes because I didn't have my big knife. I thought I had my big knife and I didn't. So little tiny pair of scissors, they actually do, they work to cut quite well. The other thing on this little knife, or Swiss knife, there is actually a knife component. Now, this is not the best knife. I prefer a nice 3-inch shank when I'm out there at these races, because you never know what you're going to encounter, and I'm all about being safe. But if you're really in a pickle, this will cut. This thing's sharp. If you get to cut somebody, like, you're going to do damage. It's not going to be necessarily, you know, major fatal, but you're going to stunt somebody with it at least. So this is a tiny little, you know, weighs next to nothing, 1 ounce if even that, knife, but I've got scissors and a sharp blade on it that I can use for things. So my little foot care baggie with my Ingo patches and my Compeed and my Desitin. And then I showed you my little Swiss knife. So that's very small. And then as far as safety goes, another thing that I think is important that I think too many people overlook, you want to be visible at night. Now, I don't like headlamps. Not everybody does, but you don't want to be stupid. And you're on the road with traffic. And you can be angry all day if people are not paying attention, but they're not paying attention. And you against a car, you're not going to win. So you are going to have to be visible. Now this, you really can't tell super well with it, but it's a blinky light. You can blink it fast or slow, off, or keep it just steady on. Now, what I typically do, I keep it off unless I can see way off in the distance if there's a car coming. As soon as the car's headlights are visible to me, I turn this thing on and blink it. I don't like to use red. I prefer to use either green or blue. For some reason, I think people are with the red lights. I don't think they pay attention to them as much. That's just my opinion. Blue in particular, if people see blue flashing lights, they think police. And I think that they're way more vigilant of the road and they're driving when they see a blue flashing light. So I prefer blue, but green is my backup. And if somebody sees a green flashing light, it's going to catch your eye. Now, there are studies that show that sometimes people will veer towards you if they see a light or see a flashing light. That's why the other thing that I do is I have a small flashlight. Now, I use ambient moonlight as much as possible when I'm on the road. Again, I don't like to have bright lights everywhere, and I prefer to just use the moonlight to guide me on the road. But again, when I do see a vehicle coming off in the distance, I flash this on, and then I move over as far to the left as I can. And I don't know if you can tell there, I keep my arm out with the light. So I have my flashy light on pinned to my chest, to my hydration pack. And then I keep a flashlight. I keep my arm out, so it's basically a body length out with the light flashing, not flashing, but shining onto the road. That way, if somebody is an idiot and they don't move over enough, if they're going to hit me, they're going to hit my arm and not the rest of my body, most likely, unless somebody's intentionally driving towards me and trying to hit me, and I have to physically step off, over the guardrail and whatever I have to do, to get out of the way. But I have found that, obviously I'm still here and I've done thousands of miles of last annual racing on the road. This has been a very successful method of keeping people away from my body. So that's my lights. As far as gear goes, other important things that I carry with me. Obviously, you have your phone and your charger. Now, some people will carry very large battery banks to charge their device on the road. I choose not to do that. I do, however, have, this is a single charge. It's very small. It weighs nothing. It's very compact, but it'll get me one charge. So, it's not one of these big giant things where it's going to charge your phone 4 times or anything like that. I don't want to carry something that bulky and heavy with me. And generally in these races, even if you have to go a really long way between stores and services, you're not going to have to go so far that one charge is not going to be enough. So I don't know if you can tell, but you can see here, you can either plug it. I have a Google Pixel phone, so I use a USB-C. It plugs directly into my phone or into a charger that has a C adapter on it. And it's got a little button on the side, and you push that, and that charges your device. So one charge portable bank. This is enough for me. I've never had a time where it wasn't enough since I started carrying it. So this is for, you know, your phone or whatever else you have that you need to charge while you're out there on the road. This is a single bank. This thing weighs about 1.2 ounces, so it's very small. And then I have my, this is my rain jacket. Now this, you know, I've used everything from trash bags to disposable ponchos. In my opinion, this is as lightweight as a trash bag or a disposable poncho. I mean, you can't tell by looking at it. It looks like it's got some weight to it. It weighs nothing. This is, I'm going to take it out of the band here and let you know exactly what it is. So this is Rab. This is a Rab brand, R-A-B. Super, super lightweight. This is rain proof. I wore this thing at Latch, and no water gets through it. I know sometimes with these, you know, little rain jackets that you carry with you on, you know, people are reluctant to bring them because if you've worn it for a period of time, eventually water starts to seep through it. No water got through this thing. Now it is a bit on the pricey side. This rain jacket costs a couple $100, but in my opinion, it's invaluable. You can't put a price tag on that. It not only keeps you dry, it also keeps you warm. I wore it at night when it got cold at Latch. And when you've been moving for a couple 100 miles and you're not sleeping a lot, your body doesn't regulate temperature the same way that it does, you know, when you're just fresh on your feet, you know, you're just going out, or in everyday life. And, you know, 65 degrees or even 70 degrees can feel very cold at night. So it's good to have something like this, you know, and again, you can actually use a trash bag. A large black trash bag works just fine, or a disposable poncho. They work just as well. They're just as lightweight. They will keep water off of your body. They will help keep you warm. I've even used them to lay on top of during events if I'm needing to sleep somewhere and I'm not using a hotel or something indoors. They work just fine. But this worked really well for me in that I don't have to throw it away when I'm done with it. Or it's not some crinkly thing that I'm carrying around in my pack. It folds up very compact, it weighs nothing, and then I just, you know, tuck it into the back of my pack, and it serves multiple purposes for me, and it's just an invaluable garment. I wouldn't trade that for anything in the world. It worked wonderfully for me. You know, and I told you can use a very large trash bag will work just fine to lay on or even in during an event like this. If you're needing to sleep and you can't get somewhere that is indoors, and some of us choose not to. You don't want to use a hotel, or you don't want to sleep indoors, and you want to be, you know, moving as efficiently as you can, and sometimes all you need is an hour nap. But it's chilly at night, so I started using a sleeping bag liner. I've tried doing the Mylar, and I don't like them. I find that they will help keep you warm, but they're loud. They're impractical. They claim you can pack them up and use them again, but I found once you take it out of the package and you unfold it and you use it, it's impossible to get it folded compact again. And then again, it's loud and crinkly and annoying, and in my opinion, you sweat a lot in them too. This is a super, super lightweight sleeping bag liner, and it tucks, you know, you can fold this bad boy up really small, and it's going to tuck right into your pack, and it weighs nothing, and it keeps you warm, and it protects you from bugs and from, spiders and things that are, crawling around if you're laying out behind a church, which I like to do. Churches are probably my favorite place to sleep during these events. I might use a hotel once or twice, but if I can't do that, I'll lay out behind a 7-Eleven or a church or, anywhere that I feel that people aren't going to bother me. I like to go behind them and not in the front, because I found, sorry, you can hear a jet in the background. I live by the Air Force Base. But people aren't going to bother you if you're laying out behind a business quite as much as they are if you're laying in front of it. And I don't like to be bothered if I'm trying to sleep during one of these things. So I'll lay out behind a church if it's got a nice awning, and especially if it's got a place where I can charge my phone. That's even a better bonus. Water spigot, you feel like you hit the lottery. But this is super lightweight, and you just crawl up in it, use your pack as a pillow, and you're set. You're good to go. I've got my trusty shades. I wear heart shades. I've been doing it since my first Vol State in 2016. I wear a different color every race. I've now used 12 of them. I think this was probably my 2022 Vol State. I'm not sure. I don't know. But so sunglasses. You're probably going to need a hat. This is my lucky hat, my Charleston hat. And I found out the hard way at the 2022 HOTS when I got really, really severe burns that almost took me out of the race on both my ears, my neck, and my wrist. My watch died that year. I was wearing a Garmin Enduro, and I don't know what happened. I had worn it at other races before with no issues. But my watch basically fried. And so I ended up taking it off my wrist. And of course, you can see I'm, German, Irish, very super white, reddish blonde hair. I burned very easily. And my poor white wrist, where I had taken my watch off, scorched to the point that I got second-degree burns. And it was really, really bad. My ears, too. My ears were blistering. So after that terrible experience, I now use a flap. You see, I pin it. I have a hat that it came with, but I don't like that hat as much. You can see that it snaps onto the original hat. I've just been pinning it to my lucky hat. And that protects my ears and my neck. It actually, the flap goes around. And you can snap it underneath your neck so that it protects the ears, it protects the neck. And I've got the sunglasses, and so that I'm well protected from the sun, because sun poisoning and severe burns are no joke. That can definitely end your race if you're not smart and you end up getting sick. But I was able to salvage my race, and kept it going, and it was okay after that. I ended up, cutting up a pillow from a hotel pillowcase and pinning it. It was bizarre. I looked ridiculous, but I got through my race that way and didn't have to quit. So you want to be protected from the elements that way. And the other way that I do is I use arm sleeves. I've used long sleeve shirts before. I'm going to show you the shirt that I have here. I like the Runnin' Rabbit brand. Let's see, this is a Rabbit brand shirt. I have one of these, this exact shirt with long sleeves. It's a wonderful shirt. It's an excellent shirt. Very, very good quality. It's very breathable, very, very lightweight. But I don't always like having long sleeves. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. So this one I bought the same shirt in short sleeves. And then I just use arm sleeves with it. And I like those because I can then, I can put them on when I want to wear them. Sometimes I like to, if it's very sunny, I'll obviously wear them during the day. If I get chilly at night, I'll put them on at night. But otherwise, I don't like to wear sleeves, and I don't want to have to roll my sleeves up. It's annoying to me. I feel like it collects, sweat and grit and everything else, and just get kind of gross after a while. And, so I found that the arm sleeves are more useful for me. I prefer to use them with a short sleeve shirt. And then, I just, take them off, either put them in my pack or pin them or tie them to the front of the pack. And that's a really good good way for me to keep my arms protected when I need to and let my arms breathe when I don't want something on them. And of course, shorts, shorts are whatever works for you. I wear Brooks. I told you about my pack. Now there is again, just like shoes, there's a million and one opinions on what type of pack you're going to use. I exclusively use Solomon at this point. I probably have probably 5 of them, maybe more, different packs of different types that work for different types of running. Probably my favorite at this point is the Sense. This is the 2. There are a whole bunch of different models of this particular hydration pack. I don't carry a lot of stuff, as you can see. What I just showed you, with the exception of my vanity items, which my vanity items are a toothbrush and a little itty bitty travel deodorant, and I'll tell you the story about that in a minute. But what you see right there, that's all I take with me, aside from, my phone and charger and my ID and money. And then I have a small pill pack here. That's just Tylenol and Tums, a couple of antidiarrheals, and that's just emergency stuff where if I'm really going through something and, you've got to deal with it. I have those. I also have some electrolyte pills in there too. But really basic stuff, I don't find that I need much more than that. Now, some people carry trekking poles and sleep mats, and there's all sorts of other stuff, extra clothes, earbuds, stuff like that. I don't carry any of that stuff. I don't find that it's necessary for me. But anyway, my pack, I use the Sense 2 with soft flasks. It has a couple of pockets, really basic. But that's really all that I need for what I'm carrying. I've got a pocket in the back where I can stuff my my little sleeping bag liner and my raincoat in the back. And then the 2 pockets in the front. One of them, my phone fits up there nicely. And the other one, my little emergency bag of foot care and pills will go in the other one. And then on the side, I stick my flashlight. And I also carry pepper spray. And that's really it. That is all that I carry, and that's all that I find is necessary to get through one of these races. If you need anything else that's emergency, you pick it up on the road. There's no shortage of Dollar Generals and just general stores. They kind of pepper these small towns. You do sometimes have to go 20 or 30 miles between stores. So you always check your map ahead of time and look and see where things are and what the hours of operation are. If you aren't sure, call the store and ask. I was telling you, vanity items. Now, different people have different vanity items that they carry with them, things that they feel just kind of make their experience a little more pleasant. I've found that brushing my teeth, it just kind of brings me to life. You're out there, especially if you're moving aggressively. You're doing, like I said, I do, an average of about 55 to 58, 60 miles maybe a day. And that's a lot of movement. You're moving 15, 16, 17 hours a day when you're doing that. And, really, you're on the road even more than that because you're taking breaks along the way. It's not like I'm moving 16 hours, I'm spending 8 hours in a hotel. That's not how it breaks down at all. In fact, like I've said, some days I don't use a hotel at all. You're probably out there on the road 20 hours a day, and then you might get 3 or 4 hours of sleep. And during that 20 hours, you're taking a break at a store for 30 minutes, or you're sitting down for 10 minutes and working on your feet, and you take a 20-minute cat nap behind a church. It breaks down very differently. My average moving pace is about 15 to 16-minute miles. So, you do the math on that, and you can figure that the time that I'm moving and the time that I'm not moving, I've actually sat down and worked the math out before, and it's mind-boggling how much time you spend off your feet, actually. But anyway, so you're on the road a lot. You're out there. You're not getting a lot of time where you're around all of the creature comforts that you deal with in everyday life. So for me, when I have an opportunity to get off of my feet for a few hours and run some water over myself and get cleaned up a little bit, I like to brush my teeth. That way, when I go out again after I've rinsed off and brush my teeth, and I carry the small deodorant. I just feel a little bit recharged when I do that. You come to life a little bit. You feel a little better. At least I do anyway. And I move a little better when I'm feeling better. If you just lay down for an hour and yeah, it'll get you up and get you moving again, but you're still grimy and gross and dirty, and your teeth are dirty and everything, and you're still just grinding out the miles. For me, after I've taken a 3 hour break, gotten in the shower and rinsed, if I'm lucky enough to get some soap, clean myself off, and then I put on the deodorant and brush my teeth. I move really well for a while, because you feel like you're fresh. You feel like you've been recharged. The deodorant story. So 3 years ago, I ran HOTS, which was the Gaffney. We went over Kimsey Mountain Highway and all that good stuff. A lot of mountains, a lot of climbing, up and down. Wonderful, wonderful race. I love it. It's my favorite. I talk about it very fondly to people. Whenever they ask, I tell them, HOTS 2021 and Latch were the two best race experiences that I've ever had. But at HOTS that year, the first day I ran 85 miles. And, then I had an incident where I got really sick from something that I ate, and it didn't agree with me. I didn't make it to the bathroom. And, I smelled so bad. I can't even put into words how disgusting I was after 2 days, because I could not get to a hotel. I got to one at mile 100. Now, the bathroom incident happened at like mile 25. And, I said I did 85 miles the first day. And I didn't get to a hotel until mile 110, which took me about 32 hours or so. And all I wanted to do at the hotel at that point was I slept. I didn't do anything else, and I only stayed there for maybe 3 hours or so. I checked in there at 36, and then I immediately went on the road, for the night. And so I didn't wash my clothes, and I didn't really take a shower or anything. I just wanted to take a nap. I was tired. I was exhausted. So the next morning, I covered 55 miles my second day. So I was at mile 140 at 48 hours. And I got to, I want to say it was Clayton, was the town that I was in. And I got to a Burger King. And I was just, I was so overjoyed to get somewhere to where I had hot food, because I had gone, 48 hours with pretty minimal. The resources were pretty sparse at that one. I went from mile 47 to 82 with no access to anything at all, 35 miles. And that first night I ran with Jim Wynn, who he did super well at that race. He won Latch, in 2023, and he was winning most of HOTS last year. He ended up finishing third, but he's a very talented runner. We ran the whole first night together from mile 47 to 82, and oh my God, we were carrying so many supplies. It was crazy. I had my flasks in the front, and then I was carrying an extra liter, just running down the road carrying this liter in my hand. But anyway, so 48 hours, I had very little opportunity to get supplies. And so by the time I get to this Burger King at 48 hours, I had done 140 miles, and I was just absolutely disgusting. Like I was sweaty, dirty. I had the accident with the bathroom, just every imaginable, just disgusting smell that you can imagine a person would have, I had coming into this Burger King. And when I got in there was a Boy Scout troop. And so there's like 15, 9 to 12-year-old boys. And they're, their scout leader. In addition to, some old people and, just regular everyday folks all crowded into this Burger King. And I'm standing there wanting to order my food, and I could, it's really bad when you can smell yourself and how gross. And all you can think is, if I can smell myself, I know that all these people around me can smell me too. And I was so just embarrassed. And I don't normally get embarrassed during these things. Normally I'm like, this is my life. This is what I'm doing. You rinse off the sweat and the grime when you can. You take a shower when you can, if you can. You rinse your clothes off when you can. You can't help it if you can't get to things. If you can't get to a place where you can get cleaned up. But, on this particular occasion, I smelled so bad and I was so ashamed of myself that I had come into this establishment with this Boy Scout troop and all these people, these old people, and I smelled so bad that I immediately, after I got done eating, I left and I went to I don't remember if it was a CVS or a Walgreens or what it was, but I bought deodorant and immediately put it on, and I have never done one of these since then without carrying a travel deodorant with me, because I will never go through that again. That was just such a horrible moment, because I was having a really good race. I was doing really, really well, and I just stunk. I smelled so bad. I was so dirty. I was disgusting, and I was so embarrassed. It was so humbling to know what people are thinking. People are thinking what I'm thinking, which is, this person really smells bad. So, I'm not telling you got to bring deodorant. Plenty of people don't. Plenty of people don't use it at all in general. But for me, that was not a moment I'll forget. So anyway, I've shown you a lot of basically all of the gear that I carry with me. It's not much, but that is what I feel is a bare minimum to get through a 300 to 350 mile journey run or more, because this year's HOTS is 400. And I know a lot of people are really excited about doing 400 miles. I'm still undecided on what exactly I'm going to do next summer. I have not made up my mind entirely yet. But I have a very ambitious next year planned. Unfortunately, right now I'm extremely injured. And I've been injured for a couple of years. I have an injury that's been flaring up off and on. And for the past year, it's been really, it's gotten to a point where I'm kind of sidelined a bit. And I don't want to go into that too much. That's not the point of this video. But because I'm sidelined, I thought I would make a video showcasing gear and what I find to be helpful to have a successful race. So, as far as training and things like that go, there's plenty of resources about that as well online. If I have one piece of advice for people who have never done something like this before and are asking how do you train for it, the answer is not just to go out and do a bunch of 100-mile or 50-mile races. That is a very different type of racing. It is a very specific type of racing, and I've found that how well you do at those kind of races is not a useful tool for predicting how you're going to handle something like this. This is a very different type of running. And in my experience, the best way to prepare for something like this, if you've never done it before, is to either do mini journeys where you go out at, say, 4 o'clock in the morning, and maybe with a friend or without a friend, it doesn't matter, however you prefer to do your running, and just run a couple towns over, pick some zip codes, run a couple of towns, go 30 miles out and 30 miles back, and use the stores and shops and everything else as aid stations, just like you would during something like this, which is what you're going to find that you do. And then after you've done a couple of those, to where you've got some experience with just a simple day journey, the next step up is to have somebody go look at your map, make sure you find roads that are pedestrian accessible, and have a friend or a spouse or, whoever you have that's in your life that you can help you out in that regard, have them drive you 100 to 130 miles away. And you can do this on a Friday, a Saturday, whatever time that you have available to you. We all work different schedules or don't work different schedules if you're retired, or don't have a job. But have somebody drop you off 100 to 130 miles away. Do it at night, when it's dark. Do it at the end of a week. However your training week works out, whether you work Wednesday to Tuesday or however your week works out, and we're all different. Have somebody take you at the end of a tiring week of training at night. You want to start at night when you're tired and when your mind is going to be most tired, and drop you off 100 miles away, or 130. And make sure you're on tired feet when you do it with a tired mind. And your goal of that excursion is to make it home without having to call for a ride. or without having anybody come out there to save you, rescue you, bring you supplies, or anything like that. You have to get back on your own 2 feet, on your own, your own free will, without using any outside help. So those are the two most useful things that I found. And I've done both of those things many times. Henry and I, we have a run that we do. We call it the Fremont Run. It's only 30 miles, but it's a great way to go out. We run out and back to Fremont. We have another one that we've gone, it's a Black Creek in Lacoma, and it's 50 miles round trip. And, we just run it the way we would run one of these races. And, we use the Dollar Generals and the gas stations and things like that as our aid stations, because that's what you're going to use when you're out here. And I have very much done have somebody drop me off and I run back. I actually created a race that way. If you've ever heard of the Buckeye. I had my sister drop me off at the Ohio River, and I ran all the way to the lake. So, there are definitely ways that you can train for this, even if you have never done anything like this before. And they will absolutely be very valuable. They'll give you wonderful memories and experiences, and it helps your brain learn to process what is a very different kind of running. This is going to be unlike anything that you've ever done before. Hands down. It's a very unique, it's a wonderful kind of running, and it's not for everyone, but for some of us like myself, it's now my preferred way of racing. I prefer to do these over most of the traditional distances or runs or whatever. So that's about all the training advice I'm going to give anybody, is to do those two things. And, I will hopefully see many of you out there next year at HOTS or Vol State, or both, or Coast to Coaster or Buckeye. I've got a big year planned, so if you are doing any of those events, I hope to meet you and talk to you or catch up with you or run with you.